starting, Debbie. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How's that?
All right, this is a work session tonight. I just want to clarify a couple of things. We are on this end tonight because we're doing a public hearing. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes. We do have some other business items that we do need to get to. I wanted to share that unfortunately Barb's family lost their dog, so she's not here tonight. So I think many people can certainly understand that. And I also wanted to just take a moment, and Barb and I talked about it before her dog passed, and not trying to put them on equal footing or any type of comparison, but Dexter Chris lost his son. And some of you may remember that we did have the gospel choir here some time ago. He and his family have been involved in a number of things, and his son actually attended one of the school districts in the town associated with Peru. So I did want to offer just a moment of silence for his family today. Thank you. A silver lining from that cloud, his heart was transplanted to someone else today. So if I can share with anybody here, if you haven't considered it, please consider being an organ donor. I think in tragedies such as that, there's an important and powerful opportunity to just be reminded of some of those things. So moving forward, is there anything for public comment this evening? Okay, nothing for public comment. Want to touch on just a couple of things, and then I'll begin to read our resolution, try to get our public hearing open. I want to thank Jim for working with the county on an item that will eventually hit our docket. The county is doing some work on the Harney Bridge. It's something that we've been looking forward to for a while now, and because there are multiple entities involved, including the county, the town of Plattsburgh, and Scholar Falls, there's a document and sent it to Jim, and he's been working with them to make sure that the language is buttoned up appropriate. So thank you for that. Do you have any other highlights that you can?
No, I think it hasn't been finalized yet, but when it is, it will be finalized so that the town is well protected.
Okay, thanks. Two other items. This is more of a carryover from the Supervisors Association, but we had two guests that are meeting this week. One was from NYSEG. They continue to try to increase their infrastructure. Their main focus was through the lens of emergency management and storm, responding better to storms. It was a good meeting. The other guests were our commissioners from the Board of Elections. And they gave us a heads up that the cost of the elections will be going up for a number of reasons. I'm not looking to have a debate on chargebacks and how people are, I'm trying to give people some information, but anticipating some of the things like, and also knowing that there could be some primaries on both Democratic and Republican sides for Congress, for the presidential race, etc. And one of the big things that people should know is that the hours themselves are going longer now for each of the elections. So how they do it is they budget, for a situation where they have kind of every election that could potentially hit. We potentially may have a special election in the town of Plattsburgh as well as the city as it relates to one of our county legislators. So they're also accounting for those numbers for us as well. So just giving you a heads up, we did get all that information. I shared it with Patrick, and that will be interlaced with the numbers as we move forward with the budget. But wanted to share that with you. they appreciated, having the opportunity to speak with the supervisors. They said that they'd be happy to come and speak with the different towns. I know that we've had them here before, but I do not anticipate chargebacks changing anytime soon. So, that's,
Does that include all the 10 days for early voting?
yes, it's also gonna, thank you, Tom, it's also gonna include the way that they're going to do the early voting, and a number of other things, and it's almost embarrassing, I wouldn't even say modest, nominal amount of money that people receive to be the poll watchers and kind of the chief person that's overseeing it. That pay is going up slightly as well. Not by,
Actually, poll watchers aren't paid, but it's
but-
inspectors.
yeah, the inspectors, thank you, yeah, so,
Do they have, are they going to have each district in each town? Or are they just going to have poll watchers for all the districts? So just the three people instead of.
the model of basically what you know as the polling sites and the way that it's being laid out is the same. That is not changing. The amount of time that people will be at the polling locations because the hours are extended is really the most significant change.
So basically then for those 10 days, there's going to have to be somebody for every district?
No. The early voting will be done in a central location down in County Board of Elections or near them through their conference room. Yep.
Okay, but the persons, the inspectors and the persons that are going to be there at the polling place, both political sides or
Yep.
other, is that going to have to be just for the town? Or is it gonna have to be somebody?
No,
for
it's,
every-
they're condensing it for the early voting,
Okay,
but as far as the general election day, for lack of better terms, or election day, will be, as we know it, just the hours, and for all elections, school elections are really kind of the ones that have the most dramatic change, because I think that's what, 12 to 6 or something like that,
Yeah.
so, yeah, okay?
But the early voting it's reduced hours as well.
Yep.
It's not like from 5 to 6
yeah,
in the
I
morning.
got a list
till
of all
10.
that, but I just didn't know how many people they had to have there for each, like every town, or, every district in
No.
every town, because it could be extremely
Yeah,
expensive.
they're mapping out a central process to that.
Yeah.
All right, so the meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. By the presiding officer at the town hall on the Banker Road. Further notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of Plattsburgh will meet and hold a public hearing hereon at the town hall located on the Banker Road at the town of Plattsburgh, Clinton County, New York, on Thursday at 6:05 p.m. Prevailing time in relationship to small cell application Verizon at 814 Ampersand Drive. We will soon be accepting written comments into the record for the hearing and open public hearing for the floor for public comment. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? So Costick, is there a second?
Second.
LaFave, is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Meg LaFave,
Yes.
Charles Costa,
Yes.
Mike Cashman.
Yes. At this time, 6:08 p.m., we will accept either written comments into the record or any representatives are welcome to come forward to provide public comments at this time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Brennan with the law firm of Young Summer out of Albany. Seated to the rear is Colin Fazio from Pyramid Network Services. Colin's a site acquisition specialist, a real estate specialist who I say goes out and knocks on doors to find us sites. And let me just adjust this. This proposal was submitted a few months back to the town, and it's a proposal to put what we call a small cell wireless facility. I think the last time I was up here, it was for a similar site, as I recall, but I may be mistaken. But this is the existing Stewart's on Ruger Street. There's I think it's a newer credit union or bank on the next corner over. And behind it, there's a couple of office and commercial structures. So we're on this building at 8 to 14 Ampersand Drive, and we're proposing to put a small antenna on the peak of the roof in the back corner. It's basically on a sled mount that's angled to match the peak of the roof with some blocks, ballast, and then it's a small antenna measuring about 14 inches in diameter, 2 feet tall, what we call a cantenna. The base station equipment, the radios are in the rear backyard, in between a couple of the existing air conditioning units at grade. Be surrounded by a 6-foot vinyl wrap chain link fence. And the purpose why we're here this evening is while we do have generally good coverage in the area, there's an existing area where we're having capacity problems. And so what Verizon has done over time is we are deploying, rather than trying to come in and build a brand new full tower, what we've been doing is putting these up. And so it would be, this is the cabling going up the back of the building and just laying flat on the roof, and then the antenna would sit on top. And the last one we did was over on, last time I was here, I think I called it by the airport, which wasn't really fair, but it was on one of the churches down on the east side.
Alliance Church.
Thank you. You were here that night.
I was.
recall. Yes, you were. Thank you for having a better memory than I am. But we do this in lieu of trying to build a full site with the panel antennas or a full tower. And basically these act to pick up the coverage in about 1,000-foot radius, takes it off, going to the existing towers, and frees up those towers to serve the capacity needs in a better fashion. And so this was reviewed, we did a site visit with the building department and Mr. Comey. I remember it being cold out, so it must have been some time. I remember we should have had gloves on. And we made a couple of changes to the layout of the base station at the ground. And other than that, it's been cleared by Mr. Comey for the public hearing this evening. And I can talk about these things as long as you want me to talk, but I'd rather turn it over to Mr. Comey and defer to the board on how you want to proceed.
Can I ask exactly where it is? I wasn't quite sure where you was here.
Sure, so this is Ampersand Drive coming south. This is Ruger Street. There's an existing Stewart's shop with a gas station, gas canopy right here. This building was under construction when we did the site visit, so I believe it looked like it was gonna be a credit union or a bank. And so the building is this building, so it's the first, or the second building in on the right. And the equipment's, here's the street, so the equipment's behind the building, and then the antenna sits at the peak of the building.
So the building exists now,
Yes, it does.
and you said you're gonna put a chain link fence around it?
We're gonna put a small chain link fence around this, it's 6 foot by 8 foot behind the building, so there's, it's about 10 feet in from the back of the building, and basically, the chain link fence comes off the wall of the building like this, 6 feet, it goes 8 feet that way, and squares back off, and the equipment sits on a concrete pad, a concrete pad behind the building.
You gonna put any shrubs or anything around it?
No, because it's entirely behind the building next to the air conditioning units. We weren't, there is a little bit of foliage back between here, but otherwise it's just a grassed area sitting right behind the building. And the equipment is about this tall within the fence.
And you said it's vinyl wrapped.
It's vinyl wrapped. I mean, if there's a concern, we can put slats in the fence to further screen it.
But there's already existing air conditioning units there, this is just gonna be in
Yeah, there's
addition.
an existing, let me see if I can get this other view back up. There's, so looking at the back of the building, this is an air conditioning unit that has to slide to here. There's another AC here, there's two, I forget how big these propane tanks, 80 gallons or something. There's a back door. This is the meter box, and so we're going just between them. Our equipment's about this tall. And so, we can certainly, we can put slats in the vinyl wrap chain link fence to further break it up.
Okay.
Mr. Comey, our kind of in-house internal expert, thoughts, opinions, feelings that you'd like to share with the
I'm
board?
surviving.
You had a cold, you had said.
Thank you, I've got a pretty strong cold for this week, but I had medicine in the car and some water, so I can hopefully get through this. Number one, they need the location. The growth of data and services out in that area is significant. Number two, when we went out and took a look at where they were going to be, it is not at all intrusive in structure. In fact, I've got pictures of it. You've got something that's not much taller than I am on the roof, and it's much narrower than I am, let's put it that way too, up there. And then it comes down the back with some cabling, and then it's fenced in so you can't see it with some slats and so forth on the back side. I don't know that there is any single-family home anywhere that will be able to see this. There are some apartments, the backside of some. But in terms of an intrusive site, this is definitely not intrusive. It's needed, and I would recommend that it's something that the board should consider and approve. And we have reviewed it in depth, and they did make some changes based on what we asked. Questions? Thank you.
What's the amount of it?
Ask?
What is paid to the town?
This one, we don't pay anything because we're not on town property. I know we have at least antennas on the water tower right
The
off
water
the exit. I don't know that we have another site on, oh no, there's two water tanks we're on, aren't there?
Mhm.
Yeah, but other than that, no, this is private property and,
Similar to the church.
yeah, so, and the rent on these is, not phenomenal, I guess I would put it. It's,
There really was no town property that made any sense in that area. Believe me, we looked, because that's the first choice in the law, is to look at town property. But when you haven't got anything and you're talking a small cell site that goes only several hundred feet and not 3 or 4 miles, you have to find something that's reasonably close to that area. And when we went up and looked, we just couldn't find anything. So you can't use town property, the town doesn't get a lease, it goes to private property.
What is the reach of this? How far?
It's about a 1,000-foot, 800,000-foot, 1,100-foot radius, so they're very.
So it's just for that immediate area?
It's just for the immediate area, yeah. I mean, they don't cover a great distance as compared to a traditional cell tower or the antennas on your water tanks. They will cover 1 mile or 2 miles depending on how those are set up and used, but these really are infill where we see that there's capacity needs or high demand. Maybe it's a commercial area, it's near one of the colleges, there's a lot of users in one place. We'll put this up, it takes those users off the traditional towers and frees those towers up in a sense to cover more area or cover more people. And it soaks up the use within this 1,000-foot radius, and so it's a bit of a, I don't say it's a Band-Aid in a demeaning way, but it's not a solution like a traditional tower would be. But more and more, we're seeing in the urban areas and the heavy suburban areas, there's not a real way to put, for the most part, a new tower up in a town that's, when you're getting close to the city, it becomes harder and harder. So this is more and more the preferred solution. It keeps it down at the ground level, it's less obtrusive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
This, if I'm not mistaken, this building is a rather long building facing the road.
Yes.
Okay. And the equipment part will be in the back of the building or on the end of facing Stewart's?
The ground equipment's behind this building, so if you were seated or in your car on Ampersand Drive, looking at the front of the building, the front doors, the equipment's fully on the back
And
side.
you would not see it from the road?
Not at all.
No.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a tree line before, I think it's Kennedy Drive, between that building and the next road where there are homes. Might not.
I'm not sure that I know.
think there's a tree line.
There is one.
There's a
further back.
tree
There's a
line
tree.
between.
Yeah.
that
So
and the
this
apartment.
would not be observed, Tom, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point with it too. There's already mechanical apparatus back there
Sure.
to begin begin with, so
And you
it's
can't
just.
see it from the road
Yeah,
or
it's
really
one-
from
there's
anywhere.
one more thing there, there's already stuff, I'm assuming that the chain link fence is being put there to protect the equipment more than anything
Yeah.
from some sort of.
I've yet to hear that we've had a vandalism problem, but we do enclose
Oh,
them,
Yeah,
you know, and it's just easier to do.
Yeah, but our comprehensive land use plan says that when we're doing something new, we're trying to improve the looks of the area. It doesn't matter whether there's a whole lot of chain link fences or other things there. The idea is that as things come in and as people change it, we make it look better.
Better than what?
Anything else? I'm gonna ask this 3 times, is there anything, is someone willing or interested in submitting anything for written comments into the record or coming forward to the podium? Is there anybody seeking to provide written comments into the record or to come forward to the podium? Is there anybody looking to come forward to provide written comments or to come to the podium for, public comment? At this point, I would accept a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
LaFave, is there a second?
Second?
Wood, can I get a roll call, please?
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Meg LaFave,
Yes.
Charles Costa,
yes.
Mike Bass.
Yes. The public hearing is closed. We are not voting on this item this evening. What I would anticipate is we do not have a meeting next week, but the week after, it will very likely be on the docket, okay?
Okay. So it would be the
So
Thursday.
I think it's September 5th,
Thursday after Labor Day,
yeah,
4th or 5th.
yeah, 4th or 5th. All right, thank you very much, folks. Moving back into our work session, you do have drafts of the minutes. You also have a draft for Kevin's, appointment for the Board of Assessment Review. And then the third item here is the reappointment of Mr. Dowling as the town assessor. So, I do know of a need to go into an executive session to discuss the work history of 4 specific employees. Is there a motion to that effect? No action to be taken.
So moved.
Second.
Costick, LaFave. Can I get a roll call, Rick?
Yep. Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Meg LaFave,
Yes.
Charles Costa,
Yes.
Mike Bass.
Yes. Time going in is 6:22. Again, no action to be taken this evening. Thank you.
Kevin?
What's with this Oakland team?
I
I know, it's ridiculous.
I haven't spoken
nights
to
in a
him
row.
directly, but I've been in
Like, we're supposed to be hitting. Yeah, I know. Our pitching's not very good, though. Yeah, I'll see you later.
No, we're
That
hurting on that a lot.
Barbara was pregnant with Dalton when they lived there. You know?
It's horrible.
It is horrible.
What I've heard through the grapevine is that she has a long road ahead of her, but she will likely recover, but it's,
But you know, head injuries are head injuries, and brain injuries are brain injuries. You know, Dr. Hinsman, he's a psychiatrist, he lives on Cumberland Head area.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we've talked about brain injuries before, and he said, one